1, 2, 3. Is it on?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Good morning, and Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Dennis Sasso, and together with Rabbi Jenny Greenspan, we bring you our Shabbat morning services from the Kaufman-Shukman Chapel of Congregation Beth-El Tzedek. We're delighted to have you all join us in worship of Shabbat on Shabbat this morning, and I'd like to direct you to the website, bez613.org, where you may access Shabbat virtual resources, including links to our prayer book, Sidur Lev Shalem. I'd like to ask Rabbi Greenspan to introduce our Shabbat morning services with the opening line of the Matovu, as we give thanks for the opportunity of worshiping together.
Matovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael.
Well, the sun is shining here in Indianapolis, and I hear the birds chirping outside, so hopefully spring is not too far away. And we give thanks for the renewal of life, the renewal of a new day, and our capacity to appreciate it. With the words of the Birchot HaShachar, I invite you to follow on page 103, 104 of the Sidur, the prayer book. Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, asher natan lasech vivina, leavchin ben yom uven laila.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, she'asani betzalmo.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, she'asani ben chorin.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, she'asani Israel.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, malbish arumim.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, matir asurim.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, roka haaretz al hamayim.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, amechin mitzadei gaver.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzorki.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael bigvura.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael betifara.
Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, hanoten layaf koach.
Amen.
And we turn to page 122, Baruch She'amar. is an expression of thanksgiving for the physical universe in which we live. Page 122. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam.
Baruch Hu.
Baruch Oseh Bereshit.
Baruch Omer Ve'oseh.
Baruch Omer Ve'oseh. Baruch Gozer Umkayem.
Baruch Merachem al haaretz.
Baruch Merachem al habriyot.
Baruch Meshalem Sachar Tov L'Re'av.
Baruch Chayla Ad V'Kayam Lanetzach.
Baruch Bodeh Umatzil.
Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo. Page 141. We join in the closing verse of Psalm 150. Kol haneshama, let the whole soul give thanks and praise. Hallelu, hallelu, betzil tzelei shama. Hallelu, hallelu, betzil tzelei teruah. Kol haneshama techalelia. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol haneshama techalelia. Hallelujah, hallelujah. The psalm for Shabbat says, Tov lehodot la'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. It is good to give thanks to Adonai, to proclaim God's love in the morning and faithfulness at night time. We continue on page 150. We give thanks for this opportunity of a new day to worship together. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvore choshech, oseh shalom uvore et hakol. Praise are you, Adonai, sovereign of time and space, who forms light, creates darkness, and brings harmony to all creation. Amen. Page 154, as we are about to proclaim the oneness of God, we give thanks for the Torah, which is our blueprint to live in the ways of God. Ahava rava haftanu Adonai Eloheinu, chemla gedola v'teira amalta aleinu. You have loved us deeply, Adonai, our God, and showered us with boundless compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, for the sake of our ancestors who trusted in you and to whom you taught the laws of life. So may you be gracious and teach us. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah, attach our hearts to your mitzvot, and unify our hearts to love and revere your name. וגרפתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת, להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, המקרב עמו ישראל באהבה. Amen. Please rise, and we join in the affirmation of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Let us read the Ve'ahavta in English this morning. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all that is yours. These words which I command you today shall be in your heart. Teach them again and again to your children. Speak of them when you sit in your home, when you walk on your way, when you lie down, when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, as a symbol above your eyes. Inscribe them upon the doorposts of your home and on your gates. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אדוני אלוהיכם. Emet. Service continues on page 158 with the Mi Chamocha, the song that Moses, Miriam, and the Israelites sang on their journey to freedom.
Mi chamocha b'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh, nora tehilot osefele, shira chadasha shiveu be'ulim, leshimcha al sefatayam, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל, ובטח נאומך יהודה וישראל. גו עלינו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך הוא, ברוך שמו.
גאל ישראל.
Amen.
We rise for the opening of the Amidah. We'll do the first blessing on page 159 together, and then continue silently. If you prefer to continue using the words of tradition, they will continue through page 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Eloi Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh HaKol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imot, Umevi Goel, Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Uzer U'Moshia U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. May the one who creates peace on high bring peace to us and to all Israel and all who dwell on earth. And we say Amen and sing Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru Amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We remain standing for a few moments longer as we turn to page 168 for the service of taking the Sefer Torah out of the ark. Ein kamocha ba'Elohim Adonai v'ein kema'asecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udevar Adonai miYerushalayim. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elokeinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Elokeinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadol Adonai iti, Onero mema Shemo yachdav.
As Rabbi Greenspan prepares to read this morning's Torah selection, I'd like to direct you to the website, Beth-El 613.org, where you can access the resources, including the links to the Torah and the Haftarah readings. Rabbi Greenspan conducted a Torah talk earlier this morning, and there she explained, I am sure, that this week we read from Parshat Terumah, selection from the book of Exodus, and then we add a second reading from the book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, that gives to this Shabbat the name Shabbat Zachor, the Sabbath of remembrance. We are joined to remember Israel's experience with Amalek, and that is what we read always on the Shabbat before Purim, the Shabbat of remembering, because in the rabbinic interpretation, Amalek was the antecedent, the ancestor of Haman, whom we see surface in the story of the Megillah, the story of Esther, that will be read towards the end of this week as we observe the holiday of Purim. We will turn first to the reading from Terumah, Exodus 26, beginning at verse 1 through 11, and then the reading will continue with the second aliyah, or with the second selection from the Maftir. We will encompass all of this in one aliyah. So we invite you now to turn to page 491. And after that verse is done, we continue on page 1135. So beginning on 491 for 11 verses, and then page 1135. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Kervanu La'avodato Venatan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Et hamishkan ta'aseh eser yereot shesh moshzar. Techelet vargaman utla'at shani keruvim. Maaseh choshev ta'aseh otam. Orech hayereot ha'achat shmone ve'esrim bama. Berochav arba'a bama ve'hayereot ha'echat. מידה אחת לכל היריעות, 5 היריעות תהיינה חוברות אישה אל אחותה, ו5 יריעות חוברות אישה אל אחותה, ועשית לולות תוכלות, על שפת היריעה האחת מקצה בחוברת, וכן תעשה בשפת היריעה הקיצונה במחברת השנית. 50 לולאות תעשה ביריעות האחת, ו50 לולאות תעשה בקצה היריעה אשר במחברת השני. מקבילות הלולאות אישה אל אחותה, ועשית 50 קרסי זכה, וחוברת את היריעות אישה אל אחותה בקרסים, והיה המשכן אחד. ועשית יראות עזים לאוהל אל המשכן, 12 יראות תעשה אותם, אורך היראה האחת 30 באמה, ורוחב 4 ואמה היראה האחת, מידה אחת ל12 יראות, וחוברת את 5 היראות לבד, ואת 6 היראות לבד, וכפלת את היראה השישית אל מול פני האוהל, ועשית 50 לולאות על שפת היראות האחד הקיצונה, וחוברת ב50 לולאות על שפת היראה החוברת השנית, ועשית כרסי נחושת 50 והבאת את הכרסים בלולאות בחוברת על את האוהל.
והיה אחד. Reading continues with Deuteronomy, Devarim 25, verse 17, page 1135 in your Eitz Chaim commentaries.
זכור את אשר עשה לך עמלק בדרך בצאתך ממצרים, אשר קרחה בדרך ויזנבך כל נחש עלים אחריך, ואתה עייף ויגע ולא ירא אלוהים, והיה בהניח אדוני אלוהיך לך מכל אויביך מסביב בארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך נחלה לרשתה, תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים, לא תשכח.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוקינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. Rise for a moment as we lift to see the words of Torah. וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה.
As Rabbi Greenspan attends to the Torah scroll, I will call your attention to the Haftarah that she will chant just in a few moments. The usual Haftarah for this Shabbat is taken from the book of Samuel, chapter 15. It is a segment that is thematically tied to this week's Torah portion and to this week's Maftir, Shabbat Zachor, and to the observance of Purim. It is a passage that we have considered too gruesome and vengeful to be recited liturgically as a proclamation in the synagogue, appropriate for study, but not for worship celebration. So instead, we substitute and anticipate the observance of Purim by reading a passage from the book of Esther, some passages from the book of Esther, the Megillah. You may find those in the virtual resources, and we call your attention to that. Rabbi Greenspan will be reading from chapter 8, beginning at verse 1, and then selective verses 5 through 7 and 15 through 17, anticipating the observance of Purim.
ביום ההוא נתן המלך אחשוורוש לאסתר המלכה את בית המן סורר היהודים, ומרדכי בא לפני המלך, כי ידע אסתר מהו לה, ותאמר אם על המלך טוב, ואם מצאתי חן לפניו, וכאשר הדבר לפני המלך, וטובה אני בעיניו, יכתב להשיב את הספרים. מה חשבת המן בן המדתה האגגי, אשר כתב לאבד את היהודים, אשר בכל מדינות המלך, כי איכך אוכל, וראיתי ברעה אשר ימצא את עמי, ואיכך אוכל, וראיתי באבדן מולדתי. ויאמר המלך אחשוורוש לאסתר המלכה ולמרדכי היהודי, הנה בית המן נתתי לאסתר, ואותו תלו על העץ, על אשר שלח ידו ביהודים. ומרדכי יצא מלפני המלך בלבוש מלכות תכלת וחוד, ועטרת זהב גדולה, ותכריך בוץ וארגמן, והעיר שושן צהלה ושמח ליהודים, הייתה אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר.
Closing verses are verses that we repeat during the Havdalah ceremony every week at the end of Shabbat. The Jewish people had joy and abundance, light and prosperity. So may it be with us. Let us prepare to return the Torah to the Ark as we continue with the service, page 183.
Rise for a moment. Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, ki mizkar shema levado. Etz chaim hi, lemachazikim ba, vetomcheha meushar, deracheha darchinoam, vechol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, chadesh yameinu keketem.
Yasher Kochech, Rabbi Jenny. Before we turn to the conclusion of the service, just a brief thought. These selections that we have read today all center on the issue of the downfall of our enemies. And the tradition struggles with the concept of, are we allowed to rejoice over the downfall or over the death of our enemy? And we have various directions. The book of Proverbs says, on the one hand, when the righteous prosper, the city exults. When the wicked perish, there are shouts of joy. The book of Proverbs also says, if your enemy falls, do not exult. If he trips, let your heart not rejoice. This is a moral issue that we deal with in many ways in our tradition, including during the festival of Pesach, which will come weeks after the observance of Purim. You're all familiar with the custom of diminishing the cup of wine as we recite the plagues, and we allude to the teaching of the Talmud in Sanhedrin 39b that says, "The Holy One, blessed be He, is not gladdened by the downfall of the wicked." At the time of the crossing of the sea, when the Egyptians perished, the ministering angels desired to sing a song of joy before the Holy One. But the Holy One said to them, "My handiwork, my children, the Egyptians, are drowning in the sea, and you are going to recite a song before me?" And then the prophet Ezekiel captures the moral. "As I live, declares Adonai, it is not my desire that the wicked should die, but that the wicked should turn from their evil ways and live." So our tradition struggles with that moral dilemma. How do we accomplish the victory of goodness? It also has to deal with the issue of memory. What are the things that we want to remember? What are the things that we want to dominate our thoughts? And I think that side of it is addressed beautifully in a poem by Rabbi Harold Kushner, with which I would like to transition us to the end of the service. You may follow it on page 151 of the Siddur. He says, "Let the rain come and wash away the ancient grudges, the bitter hatreds, held and nurtured over generations. Let the rain wash away the memory of the hurt and the neglect. And then let the sun come out and fill the sky with rainbows. Let the warmth of the sun heal us wherever we are broken. Let it burn away the fog so that we can see each other clearly. Let the warmth and the brightness of the sun melt our selfishness so that we can share the joys and feel the sorrows of our neighbors. And let the light of the sun be so strong that we will all see all people as our neighbors. Let the earth, nourished by rain, bring forth flowers to surround us with beauty. And let the mountains teach our hearts to reach upward to the heavens. Amen." So at this time, when so much of the language that we hear in politics and in the airwaves, virtually and face-to-face, is divisive and derisive and contemptuous, let us remember the lessons and struggle with the moral issues of this season of the year. Let us turn to Aleinu as we bring our service to a conclusion, page 205. If you're able to rise at your places, please do so.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם בגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר ויהי אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
At this moment in our service, we turn to memories that nurture us as we honor loved ones who have died in the weeks gone by: Jack Cohen, Jane Glasser Yallis, Nora Bernstein, David Goodman. We say Kaddish for those for whom we mourn and for all those who have died in recent days and weeks, and those of the anniversary of whose passing occurred this week. We honor also the memories of those who have died as a result of the pandemic we face as a nation and as a worldwide community. We honor the words of hope and of faith. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. בעולמה דברה כראותה וימליך מלכותה בחיי איכון וביום איכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפואר ויתרומן ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. May God, the source of peace, grant comfort to all who are bereaved, peace to Israel, and to all humanity. And let us say, Amen. I'd like to invite you all to join us tomorrow morning at 9:30 for the first of our Purim celebrations, fun morning activity for family and for children and for adults. So go to our website and find out about the imposters and more Purim-related events during the week. We ask you, if you have not yet so, to consider placing an order of mishloach manot, of gifts for Purim, so that you can support the great work of our religious school, the Rabbi Sidney and Shirley Steinman Religious School. We are going to conclude the service with the singing of Adon Olam as we anticipate Purim, a little familiar melody, perhaps.
I'll say on the Mishloach Manot, it's good with this week's Torah portion, because Truma, they brought gifts to make the sanctuary. Now we, for Purim, send gifts to all of our friends to celebrate together.
Yeah, gifts from the hearts, Truma.
Yes. And I think we can send them not just to Beth-El Zedek members, I think anybody in the Indianapolis area. So please join in
for the community.
Join in the gift-giving and spreading of the joy. Okay. Adon Olam.
Adon Olam, Rabbi Jenny.
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yetzir nivra li'et nasa v'chafso kol azay malach shemo nikra
ואחרי כתלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה
וידו הפקיד רוחי ואת תשען ויעירה ואם רוחי גוויעתי אדוני לי ולא יירא בידו הפקיד רוחי ואת תשען ויעירה ואם רוחי גוויעתי אדוני לי ולא יירא. Shabbat Shalom, Yasher Kochech, Shabbat Shalom. Celebrate together.
And happy Purim, Hag Sameach.